Welcome, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about breaking into cybersecurity, finding the right keys, just a little bit of an intro as to who I am. My name is Michael. I'm a security engineer with a background in software and infrastructure management. I've mostly worked in small organizations or startups, but I am priding myself more with the volunteering opportunities I do. So I volunteer with a lot of communities as a CTF challenge author, a mentor, instructor, and in many different roles. And I think it's been one of the nice parts of my career. I think I've been in the industry for about 4 or 5 years now. And most of it really has just been getting involved with different communities. And I couldn't really ask for more. And really it's coming off the back of one of my engagements as a mentor that I've sort of crafted this talk, which has to do with stop breaking into cybersecurity, finding the right keys. And really what we're going to talk about is understanding the narrative behind it. You know, what led to this talk actually happening? What's the drama behind breaking into cybersecurity? Do we have a better approach? The downsides to that, and then practical steps that we can take. And then finally, if anyone's got questions, I'll take them at the end. So let's start by digging through the narrative. And I think this probably started during COVID and lasted past post COVID now since 2020, where there's been this very nice wave, at the same time, very shocking wave of breaking into cybersecurity. And for me personally, the way I've seen it and the way I've seen what it's done is it's trying to frame the idea in people's minds that, hey, look, there's an easy role waiting for you. You don't need to do much. Just jump right in. And I think it's nice because really the cybersecurity industry is looking for a lot of talent. But I believe that the way it's been framed has affected people's approach into getting into security, as well as how the results at the end of the day. And so I did have a mentee say to me once, hey, I wish no one, they shouldn't have said break into cybersecurity. They should have explained what really I was getting myself into. This was obviously down the line when she had started learning. The next slide just sort of has a couple of, what I say, randomly grabbed articles. And this is no shot at the writers in any way. This is just for illustration purposes, where I'm just trying to show the different sort of headlines that are being used out there. For example, the one on the top right says how to break into cybersecurity, make 200K in a decade, which is not bad. Again, it's also another idea around setting realistic expectations. We have the other one here, cyber novice, break into cybersecurity now. Urgent call to break into cybersecurity, your pathway starts here. Now these are not bad in themselves, but having gone through the actual details of some of these articles and really posts, community forums, things that are being said, oftentimes they paint this perfect picture or picture perfect scenario where it's all rosy. And I think this is misleading, and it's having negative results on entry level people, beginners in the industry. And just the next slide sort of shows some quotes. Some of these I've gotten from mentees, some of these I've gotten from articles, things people have written. The shows first off what it's doing to people. For example, someone says, hey, I need a quick certification that can get me a job in 6 months. Not necessarily bad again, but after speaking with this person, and obviously it's a lot, you'd understand it a lot better if you had the context, but after speaking with this person, it was very clear that he's from this mindset that he could just grab a certification, for example, Comp Security Plus, and head straight into a role and start making some good amount of money, which isn't necessarily, I mean, I have seen some people who have done something similar, but again, it's about painting the right picture and setting realistic expectations. Someone else says, I've applied to multiple jobs for a year and ended up trying to find other work to make money. I think I saw this post about 2 days ago or yesterday on LinkedIn, and this guy was going on about how he's been trying to look for work in the industry for about a year. And it's just been a bust. And now he's gone back to driving or something like that. And this is no shot to him in any way, but I just feel that his approach, obviously looking at his profile and what's happened, is a result of what he's been fed. Another one, and this is an article I quite agree with, was written by Igor on LinkedIn. And he said, this approach is ultimately disingenuous and enables the less scrupulous in our field to generate high cash flows by selling those looking to break into cybersecurity much abbreviated and superficial training, just enough knowledge to clear the entry level interview. And this isn't wrong entirely. I can't count how many content I've seen between 2020 and this is 2023 around getting into cybersecurity. There's just so many content creators coming out nowadays, and it just feels like everyone's just trying to sell their own materials as opposed to really help people get jobs in the industry. And oftentimes you look at what's in there, and it's not practical enough to really help someone land that role that they want. And finally, someone did say, this is of course my mentee's quote here: "I didn't realize breaking into cybersecurity was this hard. They shouldn't have said breaking into cybersecurity. I thought once we're done with the course, we'll just get jobs." Again, this is all just showing what happens when we try to paint the wrong picture to people coming into the industry. We do want people to come to the industry, but we need to make it realistic to them. We need to make it appealing to them, such that when they come and things get tough, which they will, they are not disappointed. They're not met with a lot of setbacks, and they're able to pull through and still stay in the industry, which is what we want long term. And so this is obviously just a real quick light touch on basically what's been going on in the industry and what's been happening. Usually LinkedIn is like the major platform for this. And now what I just want to talk to and spend most time talking about is, okay, how do we go from this picture of trying to make it look like we're forcing our way in head first without really thinking about it, to actually trying to find the right keys, so to say, to the door, the entryway, the right path into cybersecurity. And that's what we're going to be looking at next. And just as a disclaimer, I'm going to say there's no hard and fast way to get into cybersecurity. However, from my experience as a mentor, my experience personally coming into the industry, I feel that some of these steps I'm going to be highlighting on the next couple of slides should in fact be a good guide and should help you be in a better position to get a role in security. And of course, this isn't just for people who are starting out in their careers in cybersecurity. This also applies to people who are who are professionals or who are mentoring positions, who are trying to get people into the industry. You know, it's good that you take some of the lessons from here and you can share that with them so that we can help work together to build a better industry for ourselves. And so we've got a couple of steps. I've scattered them across multiple slides, but we'll just go from top to bottom. Some of them is sequential, some of them is just there. You just have it at any point in the pipeline. So first off, I would recommend that you determine why you want to be in security. It's very crucial to establish a why. Now, why is this? Having the reasons for doing what you're doing will be very key when things get tough. And from my experience, from the experience of a lot of people I know in my network, they will get tough. And of course, as I've said already, I've seen a lot of people fall through the cracks once things become tough, because quite frankly, they didn't have a reason for getting into this, and they were just moving with the wave, so to say. I'm not saying there's a right reason, there's a wrong reason, but the point is establish a why. And we're able to tell yourself, hey, this is why I'm doing this. This is where I'm headed. It becomes a lot easier for you to navigate difficult obstacles that will come along the way. Once you have that, the next thing you want to do is research different aspects of security and pick one. And oftentimes, I think this has been talked about in one of the talks earlier today, but I'm just going to say it again. Look for transferable skills that map your current role to one within cybersecurity. For example, a software developer might easily switch to application security testing, or someone who's worked in the law industry might quickly switch to GRC or compliance. You know, I'm not necessarily painting a direct link. I'm just giving you examples saying, hey, you could have this skill that's transferable. And oftentimes with my mentees, people I mentor, I usually say to them, how about you just spend some time going through each of the roles that you've done in the past, and you highlight some skills. What would you say, being in this role for this period of time, what would you say you have developed? What is that skill? Sometimes it's something as little as patience or attention to detail. So those sort of things help you to sort of map and see, okay, here's what I have, here's who I am as a person. Then look at the broader picture of the different roles in security. And I think that talk earlier on with Rosie and Natalie was really nice, because that showed us a huge scope of roles in security. And you can sort of map your way across there and say, hey, look, this looks like where I would nicely fit in with given my current skills. And this isn't really something you have to do on your own, which is why the third point is get a mentor. I look back to where I am now, and honestly, I wish I got a mentor sooner in my career. And the reason for that is because it's a lot nice if you have someone who's experienced, who knows what they're doing, who's actually concerned about you. Obviously, not everyone who says they're a mentor is concerned about people they mentor, but get yourself a mentor, because what they can do is they can use their knowledge to see things from a different standpoint. I've seen a lot of people look down on themselves and the usual imposter syndrome, where they don't feel that they have the capacity, they have what it takes to be in a role in cybersecurity, or they don't see how they fit into things in this industry. Whereas someone else is coming as a third party, or you've coming as a third party, saying, hey, look, I can see this, this, and this, and I think you do really nicely in this role. And that's where it's really important to have that mentor in place. There's a lot of things you can get out of a mentor, which is why one of the things I do outside of my day-to-day role is mentor people, because I feel this is a huge way we can help people get into the industry because we give them that extra guidance that they need. Right, now you have a mentor. This 4 point on the screen isn't necessarily tied to a particular stage, but it's just something you should know. And it's something I've seen often people don't acknowledge, is the fact that we need to break the understanding of security role being independent. There is this traditional, hey, this is the security team, and then this is the rest of the organization. No, security is embedded. And why am I saying this particularly? Sometimes you could start out, for example, a software developer. And I'm just using that because it's a lot easier to use that as an example. A software developer, and he wants to switch into security. Well, how can you show that you have the understanding that your security role isn't necessarily a separate thing from the rest of the organization? Well, start with what you do. You develop software. Could you start writing secure code? Could you start making sure those functions, those validations are being put in place? People often say, I've seen a couple of people say, hey, I've been in the industry for this long. But if you actually look at their job titles, what we would traditionally say are security roles, a large chunk of it is what people would typically classify as not being security roles. But that's not necessarily true, because security isn't independent of the rest of the organization. In fact, it's supposed to be part of every unit of an organization. And so regardless of where you are, try to see that security is your responsibility at the end of the day. And so look at how you can start from where you are to show or to apply security. Now, once we've done that, we're moving forward to now actually learning. And this is where I would say, hey, do you know what? Start small and then go big. And this really is going back to the talks around foundational skills that we heard earlier already. People often paint the picture that you don't need foundational skills for a role in cybersecurity. And I don't think that's necessarily true. While I do make the argument, I can agree that sometimes you don't necessarily need to know how to code, but you do need, every role in security has foundational skills that will definitely help you succeed. And oftentimes people try to start big, so they try to do a deep dive first into the hard stuff. I mean, I personally have an example of myself where I tried to just go straight into pen testing about 4 years ago. And I realized I tried it. It was working out well for a little while. And then at some point I got stuck. I realized my problem. I didn't have the foundational skills for that particular role. And obviously pen testing is one of the unique ones. And I had to go back and learn networking. I decided to just take a step back and learn different aspects of foundational IT. And that's really helped me along the line through my career. And I've been able to work in multiple different roles and different hats because of those foundational skills that I built at the start. Now, it might seem like you're not doing much initially, but really what you do at the start sets you up for success down the way. Now, I don't think you can really overstress the importance of engaging with communities and industry experts, whether this is in chat forums, through CTFs, as we're already having one, which should be running now, I think, or even just in terms of contributing to open source documentation, open source projects, things like that really help to sort of make you network people. People get to know who you are. What do you do? I've made some of my free time out to just contributing to documentation of things I use. For example, recently I've been working with Cloudflare, which is what I use to secure our infrastructure at work. And what I have been doing recently is, as I look at the documentation on Cloudflare, I look for ways I can improve it. And in the process of my day-to-day work, I'm pushing changes or suggestions to them. And some of them have actually been taken by the organization and some have not. But this way I'm engaging with the community, I'm engaging with people, and people can clearly see what I do. They can make that assumption or picture of me. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is how we actually say, hey, look, this is who we are, this is what we do. And that's what it comes to when I say evidence your learnings through articles or frequent postings on LinkedIn. I think there's a good chunk of people on the internet out there that just make it seem like, hey, I'm going to grab this certification and you're going to get a job. I think a lot of certifications are quite easy to get nowadays. I know a ton of people personally. I know a ton of people who are not in IT, they're not in security, but they have CompTIA Security Plus certificates. They have CompTIA N Plus certificates, A Plus certificates. You can name, count the list and on and on. That doesn't really make them stand out. And so what that's done is made a lot of people or employers, so to say, to just see it as a generic certificate that, hey, anyone could really have that. But what do you bring to the table? how do I really know that you know what you're doing? And this is where it's good to evidence your learnings through articles. You could write blog posts about what you're doing. You can make postings on LinkedIn about your learnings, where they're talking about things that happen in the industry. Oftentimes you have those who post, the next big, if they read an article about some threat that's going on, they post their thoughts on it. Now, I'm not saying you need to develop that particular skill just yet, but I'm just saying that you need to show in some way, build a portfolio of your learnings. How can I see evidence that, hey, this is what you've been doing, this is what you know? That's what you need to focus on doing. Yes, certificates are going to help you to get past certain blocks when it comes to getting hired. At the same time, they're not going to get you the whole way across the finish line. And so you need to do this other bit. Once you've done this and you're now ready to dive into the industry itself, so you're ready to now find a job, what do you need to do? First off, I think somehow when I was listening to the other talks today, I was laughing in my head because I was like, literally every speaker has somewhat said one aspect of what I'm saying. And the first one, or one of them, is highlighting an niche on your public profile. People need to know what you do. It's fine if you wear so many hats and you're able to do so many different roles, but you need to have something that someone can think, hey, I need a security analyst or I need a SOC analyst. And then you just go, oh, I know Michael does this. That's establishing your niche helps, because when you network with people, people get to know what you do. If there is an opportunity, which there probably will be, they can think of you in that scenario, and that's probably how you could get your role. I think I've only gotten one of the roles or organizations I've worked at, I've only gotten it through actual applications, and the rest of it has just been word of mouth and recommendations. And so when you highlight that niche, people know you for something and they can rely on you for that particular thing. And obviously you can choose to pivot your way from there once you're in with one organization. Now, the next thing you want to do is get help with your CV. I will use this opportunity to probably recommend one of the mentoring platforms I'm on, Cyber Mentor Dojo. They are really good, and I'm going to paste the link to it afterwards, but they are really good when it comes to first offering mentors that you can connect with, industry professionals that you can really help seek guidance from. At the same time, they have this feature for CV feedback where you can almost go upload a redacted version of your resume and have honest feedback from either hiring managers, other professionals in the industry, people who've been through this process as well. And so you definitely want to get help with your CV because you want to get back past the bot selection stage, and then you start applying for jobs. Now, and in this bit, don't spray your CVs all over job postings. I've seen a lot of people do this, and oftentimes the results it's not right, because you need to take your time to research what you're applying for. Sometimes you need to tailor your resume, for example, to the specific job you're applying for. You need to work your CV around just to make sure that you stand out better in terms of what they're looking for. Oftentimes, job postings will have buzzwords that you could potentially put inside of your CV, or just highlight, not necessarily put it, but highlight it in your CV so that they can actually see, hey, this is what we're looking for. But if you're just spraying your CVs everywhere, sure, maybe you might have a hit at some point, but oftentimes I've seen this not necessarily go well with people. And they only end up being stressed, because what you end up having is you're doing 10 interviews. If you do get into the interview stage, you're either getting 10 rejections in 1 week, or you're trying to do 10 interviews in the same week at the same time. So it's quite stressful if you do it that way. Now, obviously, as you're applying for jobs, continue to do your learning process, continue to interact with the community, and let's just have that continuous learning and showing it on LinkedIn or whatever public profile you choose to use. Some people use Twitter, and I've seen a lot of people who are quite junior in the industry, and they have quite a large following or large engagement online, because people are recognizing what they're doing, their growth, supporting them in their growth. And I think that's something that can really help you. I'm not saying you should get to 13K followers. I'm just saying that your activity online can really be that extra edge you need to show people what you do and potentially get into a role. Now, this is pretty much the summary of what you should be doing, trying to plan a career. But for us professionals, there's a few notes for us, really, because it's not just on people who are trying to get into the industry. For us professionals, we need to be mindful of what we post and how we frame it. A lot of us carry a lot of influence, carry a lot of people in our networks, and they rely or they take to heart the things you post about. Mainly, obviously, just I'm talking about in relation to jobs and how to get into cybersecurity. So really be mindful of how you frame it. Let's help them or help our mentees to set realistic expectations. We want them to come into this industry. We're not rejecting them. We're not trying to be gatekeepers or anything. But we want them to come in with realistic expectations so that when they come in, they can actually excel in what they're doing. And of course, the process is always going to be tough, regardless of how well you paint yourself out to be. You're going to struggle at some point. And if you're a professional supporting a mentee, you're someone in the field supporting other people. It's always good to provide moral support where possible. Keep encouraging them because honestly, if you didn't, I was speaking to a mentee and I had good news. Today, she just got a job in a security role, and she was just thanking me because she was saying, "Hey, look, I actually would have quit if you didn't say what you said at this particular point." And I think that extra moral support we can give to them is really helpful. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the summary of what I've got to say. Um, I do have extra resources that I would love to share. I think I'll just pop them in the chat. One is a nice article I read a couple of days ago by Daniel Keeley, and he talks about his roadmap for transitioning to cybersecurity, and of course, something that could apply to a lot of people. So you might be interested in reading that. I'll drop the link in the chat. Another one is the mentoring platform I talked about already, Cyber Mentor Dojo. The link is actually to their website, but you can use that. You can sign up on the website and find mentors through there. You could also join the Discord community where you can easily upload your CVs or resumes for feedback. And another one, which I'm part of, but I'm not necessarily active on anymore, is Cyber Jobs Hunting. And I know they do provide CV support, job hunting, and I think they also do mock interview sessions every couple of, I don't know what the schedule is anymore, but they do have mock interviews with people who are having interviews and would like to have that experience. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got to say around this. I really hope that we go from trying to just drag people in through a wave into breaking into security and really try to help people find the right path for them. And obviously, it's going to be different for everyone. But yeah, thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to connect with me to talk later on, maybe explore further, if you'd like me to mentor you, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. And I'd be more than happy to help out where possible. But yeah, that's it for me. If anyone's got questions, feel free to bring them on. I will leave it up to you now, Lou.